with the dictator known as Big Brother. And he has his posters all around that say Big Brother is watching.
Oh,
So that's where the term comes from.
that's what the government is.
Well, yes.
Freaking Texas.
We don't need to get political on the show. I mean, no one's watching, so there's no one to get angry at us, but which is kind of freeing, honestly.
All right. Well, shall we start this talk of what we actually do in this podcast?
Yes. Before we say anything controversial.
Oh, we're going to say something controversial.
I mean, look, technically anything you say could be controversial, including what I just said.
I was about to say that's controversial. I'm offended that you would say that.
What's less controversial these days is the Snyder Cut.
The Snyder Cut. They did come out last week. And apparently HBO was like, we're going to capitalize this and no free trials.
I know. And I was the one who paid for that subscription for the both of us, so you're welcome.
Thank you.
So we could both watch. Spoiler alert. We do these. We always talk spoilers on this show. So if you come, it's in the title, spoilers. So like, I don't know what to tell you if you get offended that we're spoiling this after right now. This was pretty good.
You know, I'm going to say something controversial.
What?
The theatrical release was better.
Shut up, Ulysses.
I'm just kidding.
Don't even joke. You see, here's the thing. I haven't even seen the full theatrical cut, and I know this was better.
Oh boy, where do we even get started with this?
So we're coming from two different places with this, right? You've seen the theatrical cut. You saw it before you saw this. I have not, but I have had it broken down to me, and I know most of the major differences when it comes to, and I've seen certain scenes, but I haven't seen it. I've only seen this cut. This is my first real exposure to any Zack Snyder Justice League type movie. So that being said, what were your thoughts on this movie overall?
Okay, so overall, I think overall, as there's an overall by itself, it was a good movie. Yeah. It was a very decent, good, like at the end, I was like, oh, I would want to see more. Like, where's it going to go?
Right.
Which is interesting because, at least for me, so far, Marvel has just completely outpaced DC when it comes to their movies.
Yeah.
I think they've just built a much better movie universe in the MCU.
Yeah.
And, with the Justice League movie, I mean, granted that it wasn't perfect. It wasn't like fantastic. I didn't think it was like the best movie ever made or anything. Don't get me wrong. But I was like, you know what? Despite its flaws, I was like, this could potentially be a good jumping off point for an actual DC universe.
Right. Which I think we'll expound upon a little more. But it's unfortunate that they gave me a taste for what this could be only for it, like after the fact of them saying, yeah, we're never going to touch the DCEU as it existed here ever again. At least that's what we've heard up to this point. Things could always change. Obviously, the fact that we got this movie means that things could surprise me still.
I mean, I've already seen like blowing up on social media. People are like, give us a Snyderverse.
Restore the Snyderverse, yeah. First it was release the Snyder Cut. Now it's restore the Snyderverse. And you know what, nerds? Snyder stands. I won't underestimate you ever again. I will go on record as saying I made fun of them for years when they were clamoring for this movie to come out, because I was like, first off, it probably doesn't exist. Then there's probably no way, even if it did exist. Wrong on both accounts. So, you know what? I've been humbled.
Which, to be honest, so they've only made what is it, two other movies since Justice League came out, as far as like the DCEU, whatever it's called.
Three, I believe, because Birds of
Uh,
Prey,
okay,
as well as Aquaman, and no, there's been four because Birds of Prey, Aquaman, Shazam, I guess, and
yes.
Wonder Woman.
Okay,
Shazam is one of those where it could be in the DCEU, but maybe not.
because because I've seen Shazam. I actually just finished watching Aquaman tonight. Because here's one of the things: the
Yeah,
Snyder cuts of Justice League made me want to watch Aquaman.
same, same.
And
I hear
so,
it leads better into it too.
yes, it definitely does. Like in the Justice League Snyder cut, I felt, I mean, not like a ton. It's not like you get like a ton of backstory, a ton of fleshing out the character in
Right,
Aquaman.
but we get like what's his name? Green Goblin shows up in this version, and I'm
Uh-huh.
pretty sure he doesn't in the other one. And we get that little interaction talking about his brother, his half brother, and the state of things, etc.
Yes, yeah. So it definitely there's a little more. They give you a little more. Plus, I feel like just Aquaman's character in general in the Justice League movie made me want to watch more of him.
The Snyder Cut.
The Snyder cuts, yeah. I was going to say Snyder cut, in the Snyder cut.
All right, we'll establish there's the Snyder Cut, and there's, as people are calling it in masses, the Justice League, the version that Joss Whedon um, himself finished. So let's talk about some things that let's talk about the major stuff that that got cut and is now restored in this version. That like I said, having not seen the other version, I know for a fact was far superior in this version as opposed to the other, namely Cyborg. Is it true that like most of the stuff in this, that's like Cyborg's whole arc and everything, is non-existent in the other version?
Oh, it's basically non-existent. They, all the backstory, him playing football, going to college, how he helped out people, getting to the car accident. Like you see none of that. You
Yeah,
see none. It's just him as a cyborg, and it's been a couple. I think it might have been like a year or two since I've actually seen the the theatrical release. But if I recall correctly, like you don't even see him getting created like you do in in the flashback. He just kind of is, and there's like a little bit of exposition, and that's it.
right. Flashback, by the way, just just a bit of body horror in there to shake things up because we know Zack Snyder. At this point, he's not afraid to get a tad gruesome here and there. Don't know if you ever saw Watchmen, but
It's been a while.
it's been a while. Yeah. A funny
Oh
thing.
yes, now you're bringing back memories. Yes, yeah.
Yeah, Watchmen is another beast entirely. We're not going to get into that. Actually, no, one thing that I was thinking while watching this, I was thinking that this movie, and obviously Zack Snyder has a very particular style, so everything he does is going to be recognizably him, whether it's 300, Watchmen, or these movies. He does a lot of slow mo. In my opinion, he could have dialed it back in the slow mo just a little bit. But
Okay, real quick. I do need to point something out
yes,
that I am 99.999% sure was not in the theatrical release.
what?
There's a part when they're raiding the what's called Steppenwolf's base,
Yeah,
when all of them are like, so like you at first you have Batman going with the Batmobile, then all of a sudden they all start coming together, right? Where it kind of
yes,
does like that freeze frame when they're like about to, I think, like bash through a wall.
yeah,
And I don't know if this was intentional, but that was totally that totally looks like Avengers 2, like when they're like about to attack
It's
the
like that
fortress.
the slow-mo thing where they're all together.
Yeah,
Yeah, which is a cool part. I like that.
it was, but just
Uh,
had Avengers flashbacks. Anyway, you
it
were
did.
saying.
It did. It for sure did. I think having a superhero group all together lends itself to that sort of thing, though, to be fair. If you're going to, whether it's Avengers or Justice League, or if you were going to do something like The Incredibles or whatever.
Oh yeah, I mean
Like,
it's very like comic book cover.
yes,
It just
yes,
reminded me of that part in Age of
yeah.
Ultron.
We'll get back to Cyborg. We're a little scatterbrained here. What I was going to say was, it reminded me a little bit of Watchmen while I was thinking while watching this movie. And I can't quite nail why exactly, other than because it wasn't just that it had the Zack Snyder style to it. There was like something about it that was just in the way it was paced and the way the storytelling was, just like moving between different characters, showing us a little bit of backstory here, and then eventually converging to this whole thing that just it gave me Watchmen vibes a little bit. And I mean that in a good way, because I think that the storytelling in this version, in this movie, is actually pretty good. Like the 4 hour runtime, I think, for the most part, even though it's really long, is kind of earned because we spend a lot of that time actually getting to know, at least on some level, these characters and like why we should care about them. And I think, bringing it back to Cyborg, the fact that how did they cut out the best character in this movie in the original? How do you look at what was presented here and make like the decision, you know what, this doesn't need the best character, the best arc, the best relationship between the father and the son in this movie. Yeah, we don't need none of that. All the stuff about him, coming to learn to accept himself, even though he thinks he's a monster. All that stuff about like him going, like being in the internet and like looking through and helping a Hispanic lady who is struggling, giving her some money because she needs help, like showing that he's a good person and is not going to like launch all the nukes at everybody. Like, how is that cut, dude?
Honestly, there's so much in this movie. I'm like, why was that not there? Like,
Not only was all so much of this cut, it was replaced with what I understand was lesser material, like objectively lesser material. But I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I mean, so obviously, I don't know what was happening in the behind the scenes. Don't know um how much influence Joss Whedon really had, how much executive influence there was, how all that good stuff or bad stuff.
Yeah.
All I can say is that there was so much in the theatrical release that as I watched, I was like, this doesn't even make sense. How did we get here? Like,
Yes.
and then watching the Snyder cut is like, oh, that makes so much more sense. Like, oh yeah, this flows a whole lot better. This actually makes a little more like this makes sense why this happened.
Yes.
Because another thing, I don't know if we want to keep talking about Cyborg, but
I would love to keep talking about Cyborg. I don't know.
okay, anything else you got?
Okay, last thing is that I feel so bad for Ray Fisher, the actor of Cyborg, at this point, because I don't know if you knew, there was this whole ordeal where after the original version of Justice League was released, shortly thereafter he went pretty much ripped into the creators of that movie, like the executives and Joss Whedon, saying like, basically saying most of my stuff was cut out, like so much of the stuff that I did that was good character stuff, that was good story, was cut out, and I was basically just like handed short end of the stick here. He was very open about that, and from what I understand, executives at Warner Brothers didn't take kindly to that and fired him from any future projects. So he's never like at least at this point, it seems he's never going to be Cyborg again, which sucks because he was right. So I don't know. I think he did a great job in this, and he deserves more than he got. So,
well, never know. The fan base has already proven that they can override an executive's decision.
Yeah, for real, for real. What else did you want to talk about, though?
Oh gosh. Okay. So much.
There's a lot here. There's a lot.
You know what? Let's go. Before we get to, I think the big potatoes, the big tomatoes, whatever you want to call it, some other big parts. I want to talk a little about Flash.
Yes, because from what I understand, he got more too.
He got more. The only backstory in the theatrical, I think he goes and sees his dad, and that's it. Like there is no. I really enjoyed the scene where he goes and saves that woman from the accident.
Yes. What's her name? The girl who's supposed to be his love interest.
Is that who that is?
Yeah, that's her.
Okay.
Because they were giving each other eyes.
they were. I kind of thought that was, but I didn't remember hearing a name or anything, and so I wasn't quite sure if it was just someone or. But in any case, I don't know. I just really enjoyed that scene, which again was not in the theatrical release.
Yes,
where he just goes and saves his love interest, and I think I might just love more the visuals. You get a little more. It's the actual first introduction to his powers, which you don't get in the theatrical release until he actually is suited up.
Are you serious?
Yeah. I think other than when Batman and Wonder Woman are like, oh yeah, so and so like Barry Allen, and like you see something on the camera, but
the more I hear about the original cut, the more I never want to see it as long as I live.
But yeah, it was just I don't know why, but I really appreciated the scene, like the little part where he like is moving and his shoes just explode.
Right. Yeah.
And then
he touches the glass and it just
because
shatters.
Again, I think it just you see oh shoot, like this guy, like he has something there, like there's a reason why Batman's trying to recruit him.
Yes. I also really enjoyed that scene. It's kind of tough to top the famous Quicksilver scene in Days of Future Past as far as speeding goes. But I don't necessarily think they were trying to do that with this. I just think it was a really good scene, and I was a little critical of Zack Snyder's use of slow motion earlier. I think it really works with Flash because it makes sense to use it for him. Showing him going around and just like taking a look at the girl, being like, "Oh, you look nice," and then grabbing the hot dog. I thought was funny. And then at the very end, he's feeding the dogs, like, "Oh, what happened?" Doing the whole superhero thing, which it made me instantly like his character. I thought it was a great introduction to him and to his powers. And it's a real shame it didn't make it into the film until now.
Which, okay, another thing we got to talk about when talking about Flash.
Mm-hmm. Are we just going to jump into that big scene?
Okay, because I guess maybe we'll go like character by character instead of just scene by scene. But
so we've covered most of Cyborg. Now the Flash.
Which at first I was like, wait, are they doing this? When the scene in the spaceship, when I'm like, wait, time is going backwards. Like he's like Flash is making time go backwards as they drop the cube.
Yes.
The water and it hits the water, and then he goes so fast that it starts going backwards.
Yes.
Which I was like, oh, like at first I wasn't quite sure like what was going on. I was like, wait, Flash can do that, right? Because I know Superman can go we've seen him do that in past films, animations, where he goes so fast,
right?
Turn back time. But then I'm like, how do you cut this scene? How do you cut this scene where Flash
Saves the world.
basically saves the day? Like, what?
Yeah,
Like,
it's a huge moment.
It is, because it's so interesting. Because I was thinking about this afterwards. I was like, in that last scene, like everyone's doing something. Like Batman's, doing his thing. You got Aquaman and Wonder Woman. Cyborg is doing his thing.
Yes.
Superman comes in. But it's like, oh, Flash kind of he was there, but he didn't really seem to have like a moment,
Yeah.
until
Oh my gosh.
brother gets shot in the leg, goes like reverses time
because they lose.
Yeah, they lose. That's another thing. It's like, holy crap, they just lost.
Yeah, there were a couple of WTF moments in this, especially in the third act, that I was not prepared for, because I know the general outline, like what happens in the original. I know what happens, so I'm like, okay, a lot of these story beats I recognize. I knew this was going to happen, but then certain things like Cyborg having the vision of the dark like future that would happen when they revive Superman, possibly, which is another thing we should get into. Seeing freaking looks like Diana's dead. It looks like the Hall of Justice has been destroyed, demolished, as well as most of the world. Aquaman, I think I spotted, was dead, and Superman, Lois is dead, and looks like, what's his name, Darkseid is coming up, like doing a whole like, it's okay, my boy, just work for me, and you'll never feel pain. I don't know, whatever. And then yeah, Superman, like we get that in a split second, and I'm like, what? But then it sort of just happens, and then the AI says something. I forgot like what the exact term was. All I know was it just gave me a little bit of a shiver, because the I don't know, I can't name you a specific example. I just know that I have seen something like that before, where it's like the AI talking like 5 minutes to counting, 4 minutes and count, and it usually does the robotic like systematic thing, and then suddenly when it says something super deep, I know I've seen something like that before, but it just, I don't know. It always gets me whenever something like that happens. We'll get into the after scene, but it relates back to that whole like vision sequence, it seems, which also in turn ties back to Batman v Superman, with some of the more out of place scenes in that. That's one thing about this film that at least struck me, is that while I still have my reservations about Man of Steel and Batman v Superman, this movie made me appreciate those films in retrospect more, just because it rounded itself out better, I feel like.
I still have not seen Batman v Superman. I have no desire to watch
it. Oh yeah,
it.
you haven't even seen it, dude. It's a lot. But no, we were talking about the Flash. They cut out that whole. That is a major moment, not just like for this movie. That's just a major moment in any superhero movie that I don't think I've ever seen anything like that in like live action before. Like the Flash turning back time.
And also going back to what you're talking about with Zack Snyder, having a little more, I guess, gruesome or a little more intense scenes. Yeah. What I thought was super interesting, obviously things are forming back to the way they were as he goes back in time. What was super interesting is like, holy crap, there's that moment where you see like Superman, like he even died in that moment.
Yeah.
He because you see his flesh starting to come back onto his skeleton.
Yes.
And so like, holy crap, like you said, like they literally lost. Like it wasn't just that the cubes formed, it was like the whole Justice League got wiped out.
Well, the Flash mentions weird stuff happens with time. I have a rule. So it pays that off. It also pays off. We already saw he can reverse time a little bit beforehand. It also pays off like just an emotional beat of him talking to himself, like talking like himself into it, and like talking to his dad even though he's not there. And I felt that moment, man. I was like, man, run, Barry. You got this, Barry. Go, Barry. I love you, Barry. So like, it's so. That's just one of my favorite scenes in this movie, man. It's probably one of my favorite superhero scenes that I've ever seen at this point. It's just a really good moment, and the fact that they cut it out is insane.
Yeah, because okay, you know what? We're going to jump characters. Someone who isn't a superhero. Real quick, because maybe they cut it out because they didn't want to introduce Darkseid in the theatrical, which I'm gonna talk about that in a sec. But I'm like, even if you didn't want to introduce Darkseid, you still could have had that moment where, oh shoot, they lost for a sec.
Yes.
Even if it was just Steppenwolf. But a major thing they cut out from this movie was freaking Darkseid.
Yeah.
Like,
from what I understand, like all those conversations Steppenwolf has with like Desaad, those were just in this version, right? Not in the other one. From what I understand, Steppenwolf was more like was even more one-dimensional in the original version, where you're just I want to take over this planet for reasons, mother boxes or whatever. And in this one, he's like he's like a prodigal son that just wants to go home, basically.
Yeah.
Which makes me feel actually for this guy.
Yeah, and also what's interesting is that this version of Steppenwolf as well is much more fearsome.
Yeah.
Like the other one, like, yeah, he's big, he's bad, whatever, but it's like here you have a much more intense scene with like the Amazons and Steppenwolf.
Yeah.
You have a much more I feel like a much more intense scene like pretty much with everyone. Where it's like, yo, this dude is bad. Like
yeah, and well, talking about all those scenes, like they made me think, oh, this dude, this is not someone to mess around with. He's taken on all of these Amazons. There's like that extended fight sequence, which I understand was in the original, but much shorter. On Paradise Island, which is a cool sequence. I enjoyed that one, although a lot of horse fatalities in that one. I felt bad. I've never felt so bad for horses since like Lord of the Rings in that one scene. Poor horses. But yeah, no, he's like flexing, and then makes the arrows come off of him. Like, come on, dude. This guy is so metal, and he looks cooler. I know what he looked like in the original. He looks way cooler in this version. He's got like spiky armor, and he's just like, yeah. But he got shout out Mr. Sunday Movies. They pointed this out. He's got these cute little Furby eyes, though. If you like stop and look at him, like when he's like when Desaad is like, "You still owe us 100,000 worlds" or whatever. He like looks up. He's like. He does his puppy dog face. I'm like, aw.
That's so funny because I saw a meme just like 2 days ago where it was Steppenwolf, but his face was what's in the Baby Yoda.
It's so funny how like fearsome this dude is, yet how cute he ended up being.
Again, it's that's why I'm like, why did you cut out Darkseid? Because what's interesting is that, okay, you have this very fearsome dude, you know his motivation, and that moment when Darkseid appears in front of him,
he's so much bigger.
Not only he's so much bigger, but you have this character who's already proven to be a very formidable opponent. He like kneels down, he like removes his armor completely. Like that's totally like in like whatever culture, like it's not whatever culture, but it's especially in many cultures, like removing the armor, removing like the the covering is like a total sign of like reverence.
Yeah. Well, and kneeling.
Well, yeah, and kneeling, but I mean like also like removing like complete like basically this dude like essentially like comes before him naked like I am like that
I
that's
am
that
nothing to you. Yeah.
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And so again, like showing like oh man, like dark side, like this is someone like who's even more fearsome, more whatever than Steppenwolf. Where even this guy's like, oh yes, almighty.
Okay, I understand that you had to cut some stuff out of this for the theatrical cut. Because, like, 4 hours, they couldn't even pull that off for Lord of the Rings.
Uh-huh.
You know, like, they had to release extended versions or whatever. But, like, it's still so baffling that there are so many key character moments that were cut out, not only just cut out, but cut out in favor of, like, reshoots and replacing it with stuff that, again, I don't know personally, but I've heard from almost everybody was way worse in comparison to the stuff that was already shot. It almost feels like Joss Whedon came in and was like, well, I have to do something. And it was like, you know what? Yeah, I'll just reshoot this for the heck of it or whatever. Like, I just, I don't understand. I don't get it. But at any rate, Darkseid somehow manages to be fearsome in this, in spite of getting his ass whooped in that flashback sequence, which
Uh-huh.
I kind of forgive because I don't know. In my head canon, part of me is like, well, you know, that was however many millennia ago. Darkseid, you know, he was younger. Darkseid back then, he might be more mature. Darkseid now, or whatever. Plus, he was going up against the actual gods, as
Uh-huh.
well as the Green Lantern Corps and the Atlanteans and the Amazons and all the people that were there fighting. A version of that existed in the original, right?
It did. It was not as good or as
I feel like this is going to be a theme here.
okay, here is a couple of differences. One, Darkseid wasn't even in that. It was Steppenwolf.
Yeah.
And yeah. Okay, you had the gods, you had like the team up and everything,
Yeah.
but it was just so. I liked how it was in this Snyder cut because Diana like finds out about it through like finding that room and whatnot and learning about it. In
Yes.
the theatrical release, it's like she already knew, and it's much more like exposition-y.
Really.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure there were other differences, like maybe who showed up and how much detail there was in that. But yeah,
Yeah.
it was so. I remember watching it. I literally remember watching the theatrical release, seeing that scene and being like, this kind of seems out of place. And this one scene looks like it would make a far better movie than this actual movie.
I know that. I feel like that scene in and of itself could have been a film, and I would have been very entertained by that because I enjoyed that scene. I enjoyed seeing all these people fight together. I really like seeing a Green Lantern Corps in a good movie, a good live action one. Um, was a nice little nod when that one Green Lantern died, and then the ring zips away. There's so much in this movie to digest, but I feel like a lot of it is like worthy of digesting, if that makes any sense. So I don't want to harp too much again on what I like literally have been saying this whole time. But come on, man, this was a good movie. Like you had a good movie here, and it feels like you blew it for like no good reason. I know that there wasn't a lot of goodwill as far as like critics go with Zack Snyder, with Man of Steel and Batman v Superman. And I know that the studio took that to mean like, oh, we got to make this as un-Zack Snydery as possible, and that's what makes a good film. But like, no, dude, like good stories make good films. It doesn't matter who made them or what style it's in or how long it is. It's like a good story is a good story, plain and
Yeah,
simple.
and that's the thing. Like, even if you don't want it to be like Zack Snydery, okay, like
Yeah,
remove some of the slow mos. Make it less bloody. You know, do whatever you do to like tone it down. But the actual story itself flowed so much better. It was so much more entertaining. It was so much more captivating. It actually made sense.
I know. Funny thing, and this is a criticism that I've had for Zack Snyder in the past. It's like it seemed like he just didn't understand these characters, especially Superman. But the weird thing is, in this film, he illustrated that he clearly does. Like, this film, I feel like had a better origin scene for Superman than any scene in Man of Steel did.
Uh-huh.
Wait, okay, let's talk about Superman then.
Yes.
He comes back. I knew that happened. From what I understand, that scene largely when they're fighting him is pretty similar.
I think it's basically the same. I can't recall any major differences.
Maybe Cyborg has some extra arms, I heard, or whatever. I don't know. But I do know that they arrived at the decision to bring him back in a more organic way. Again, going back to Cyborg, tying it in with his backstory and realizing, oh, I was brought back to life by this. We could probably. I like the part where the Flash is like, "We're all thinking the same thing, right?" Because I'm not going to say it.
Uh-huh.
It makes sense. It makes sense that they would do that. I don't know how they arrived at that decision in the original cut, but from what I understand, it was like kind of just out of nowhere.
Yeah. Okay, here's also the thing. In the original cut, it seems like Batman kept saying like, "Oh, we need Clark, we need Superman, and whatnot."
Uh-huh.
Like I swear he said that so many times in the theatrical release.
Which
But
is
like,
weird because they weren't friends.
yes, and that's the thing. Like, this version makes so much more sense. Where it seemed like Batman was more like, "Oh, we do need Superman," but more like out
I
of
feel
like,
bad.
I feel bad, more of a realization like, "Oh, he actually was not a bad guy." Not a like, "Oh man, we need him."
Yeah, it was
And
less like pretending that they were good friends and more like I feel a sense of guilt for basically being, part of the reason he died in the first place. We'll get to Batman because I feel like Batman is also worth talking about in this. But Superman, they bring him back. It's a really cool sequence when they bring him back the whole time, reversing thing. Really cool. We already talked about that. He comes back and Lois. I find it really powerful that it's the day Lois is like, oh, okay, this is the last day that I'm going to visit his grave, basically, and then I'm going to let it go because I need to move on with my life. And that's the day that he comes back, and that's why she's there. I also know that the reason she was there in the Justice League was just because Batman wanted to use her as a backup plan or whatever.
yeah,
Whatever. But I find it, I don't know. I find that kind of like, I don't know. It's a little tear inducing, man. Like she's like trying to get over her boyfriend, her would be husband, and future father. Did you notice?
I was going to say like, she pregnant?
She sure is. She sure is. Yeah, that's a whole can of worms. But she comes back, and it's much more emotional to me. I feel like it still is maybe a little weird. Like there's no real like practical need for Superman to be like fighting the Justice League at first, but yeah, it makes for some good television, I guess. Anyway, so he goes back to the farm. Lois is like basically helping coax his memories back.
Yeah, and honestly, with Superman, like in the theatrical release, he came back. I think you have a moment at the farm,
Yeah,
and then he basically just shows up at the end, like
for real.
to fight Steppenwolf. Like there was no like build up where like he sees his mom, where he goes back to the ship, where he gets his suit, where you have his fathers, his space dad and his Earth dad, hearing all that.
Yeah.
Like that's why I'm saying like this version did a much better job in actually like building up towards things and things making sense. Like, oh yeah, he went back to the farm. He was there. He saw his mom. He's getting his memories back. He goes and gets his suit. He's having all his memories, and then he sees Alfred, which doesn't happen in the theatrical release.
Really?
Yeah, that whole part, which is in the theatrical release trailer.
Yeah, no, a lot was in the trailer that was in this, but wasn't in the like. I think even in the trailer you see Cyborg playing football.
Yeah. Oh, you're right.
Not in the theatrical cut. No. Couldn't do that.
So I mean, it makes so much more sense. Like, oh yeah, he would go to probably Alfred, and then of course he knows where they are now. Like,
I have a theory that there was some kind of supervillain, like real life supervillain, trying to make Justice League a bad movie, and that's why this all happened. It was really it was Steppenwolf trying to make a bad movie because he hates the Justice League. That's my 2 cents. But yeah, no, it all felt fairly organic. Him like first going to the farm, the home he grew up in, and then going to the home where he became Superman, and then he having that whole internal audio montage of his 2 dads talking to him and encouraging him, which I liked because in case you didn't remember, Jonathan Kent in life was very different, very against him being a hero and being out and proud about his powers or any of that, or trying to help people. In my headcanon, I sort of took that as like, since Superman had essentially gone beyond the grave for a little bit and had died, maybe he did end up having a heart-to-heart with Jonathan, and Jonathan had maybe changed his mind in whatever great beyond lies in the DC universe. And then he came back, and that's why he has these memories. At least that makes the most sense to me, because he never said that to him in life. So I liked that. I liked this. It's a good moment. We have the parallel between that and Man of Steel when he first flies for the first time, except this time he's like, I'm actually going to do something. Like, I have like basically come full circle in understanding my purpose, and now I've got to go help out my new friends. And I just think that that's a really good moment.
Plus, you actually get the black suit.
I was about to say, what do you think of the black suit?
I thought it was sweet, and it's very, very canon. The fact that when Superman comes back to life, he has his black suit.
Yes. In the comic version, I think it was because he wasn't really dead. He was in some kind of like comatose state, and that was the suit that they put him in while he's in that state. Which, in this version, he's kind of just like, yeah, the black suit looks cool. But I agree, so I'm not complaining. It's a really dope suit.
Yeah. And then, not going to lie, I mean, I think he was Superman, in the theatrical release, but when he goes up against Steppenwolf in this one, it was so much cooler.
Oh, yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He also just seems a lot more. I don't know. He seems a lot more Superman-y by the end of this. If that makes sense. Maybe I mean it's there's just not that much to go off of, but I just feel like at the end of this, I was like, yeah, Henry Cavill, yeah, you're Superman.
You know what? I can see that. I can see that. I did think it was kind of funny though. He just keeps punching Steppenwolf like he just keeps like Steppenwolf keeps pulling his head up and he's like like stay down.
He just shears off his freaking horn.
Oh my gosh. And freaking freezes his big old axe and
Right. He comes, he's like, not impressed. I'm like, dang, Clark. But I love that, like, it's not all just like all over the moment Superman comes back. Because, like we said earlier, they were about to lose even with Superman. And like it's the Flash, like that's what I love about this cut is that all of the Justice League members had something to do.
mm-hmm.
They were a team. And that's what I want to see out of these superhero team up movies, man. Is that too much to ask? Is that too much to ask?
100%. And it's interesting, even just think about it. Maybe not necessarily like in power levels, if you want to go that way, but at least maybe in like experience and confidence. I love how, excuse me, I love how the one who ends up, and again, it was a team. Like overall, it was a team effort.
Yeah.
But the fact that it was the Flash who comes and ends up saving the day, even with
Yeah.
Superman there. Like, yeah, Superman came in, he helped. Like, again, there was like you can't even say it was 100% the Flash, but the fact that it was, again, the one who you might say the least of the Justice League at this point was the one who saved the day.
Yeah. And he's like, he does seem to be like the least experienced out of all of them, except maybe Cyborg. But Cyborg's kind of really OP as far as
Yes.
being able to hack into literally anything. I liked once again, returning back to Cyborg for a second. I liked that his arc came full circle with him and his dad. He has this very strained relationship with his father, as you probably would if your dad never showed up to any of your stuff, let alone he turned you into this freakish cyborg monster from the grave after your mom died. I kind of felt a little bit like when he's listening to the voice recording of him explaining his powers. And then at the very end, it's like, okay, that's me as a scientist. Now let me talk to you as a father. And he just crushes the thing. I'm just like, oh, man.
Uh-huh.
Like, I get it, but come on, dude. Give your dad a chance. He was just trying to help you.
Which, again, going back to his arc, he does at the end.
Yes. And I was about to get to that, but I liked how that went organically with him. There's a part when he saves him from Steppenwolf initially, and all the like people from the lab and stuff. And his dad's like, I didn't think you'd come, and he's just like, you're my father. Like, so we get that understanding that like at the end of the day, he is his dad, and he's still like, he's going to come rescue him, and he still loves him. He just, he's got feelings. He's got words.
He's got things to reconcile.
Yeah. And so that part where Silas at the end seemingly sacrifices himself for nothing, but actually, nope, not for nothing. He marks the box so that Cyborg is able to track it, making it the hottest thing on Earth, which was set up earlier when he was talking to the other scientist guy, who I also assume wasn't in the original, which, good storytelling, setup, payoff. And I think, as noble a sacrifice as any in one of these movies from his dad, and Cyborg has to watch that, and you see like him being like, no, you realize, yeah, he loves his dad. He doesn't want his dad to die. But his dad sacrifices himself for the good of the world, basically, and the Justice League is able to save the world because of that, which is awesome. And then, like you said, him listening to the fixing the box at the end, the voice recorder, and listening to that at the very end, tugged my heartstrings a little bit, man. I have to say, tugged my heartstrings a bit. I was like, I've seen it done before. Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man loved to do it, but I got a thing for like the recordings left by the deceased after their noble sacrifice or whatever, and we listen to it later, and it has more meaning. I'm a sucker for that sort of thing. So I was like, a little bit like, it's okay, Cyborg. You're a good man. You're part of the Justice League. You're awesome. He ended up being my favorite character. I don't think I have to say that.
I wouldn't have guessed.
Yeah, but that's not to discount the other characters in this. Batman, I feel like, actually had a pretty solid arc between. You haven't seen Batman v Superman, but I can testify he had a pretty good arc. I can testify that he actually had a pretty good arc. Like, this is why I had more appreciation for like Batman v Superman after this. Batman has a really good arc, actually, between Batman v Superman to this movie, because in Batman v Superman, he's all about like he's got this logic, goal, philosophy in his mind. Like, you might have seen the quote that he's like, even if there's the slightest possibility that Superman is our enemy, we have to treat it as an absolute certainty, which is why I have to take him out, basically, because he's too dangerous to be kept alive. And so he's operating on all of this, just like logic that he's got going on. And he's pretty much faithless, and he's broken down, and he doesn't really necessarily even believe in heroes at that point, even though he might have been one at one point. But then in this one, between the guilt that he felt upon realizing, oh, Superman, he actually was a good guy. He kind of, it creates this arc where in this one, in the Snyder cut of the Justice League, he finally realizes, sometimes you just have to act on faith and work as a team and actually be able to work with other people. And that's what he does in this one. And I think that that's actually really beautiful when he turns to Alfred, he's like, I'm just operating on faith for once, Alfred. I thought that was good. By the way, Alfred's pretty great.
He is.
In this, I really like the Alfred here. Forgot his name. Good, a really good actor. I like that little moment between Bruce and Wonder Woman. Almost touched hands. Yeah, I'm all for it. I'll tell you what. Another controversial thing I might say. I do prefer Wonder Woman with Bruce more than Wonder Woman with Clark, so I'll tell you that much.
I mean, Clark already has Lois right now, so.
Well, in this universe, yeah, there's been, yeah.
Hey.
But yeah, no. So I really like Bruce in this one. I thought he made for a good leader for the Justice League in this, and he had some good lines. What was it? I don't care how many. I don't care how many demons and how many hells he's fought. He's never fought us, not us united. Like that. Good stuff. Motivational, man.
Put that on your wall. Put that on a canvas.
I know, dude. I like it. I like this Bruce.
Have a little sunset in the background. Little canvas artwork. That quote. Batman.
Similar to how I feel about Superman. Where in the past I was like, this guy, he's not really Superman. But in this one, I was like, yeah, that's Superman. In Batman v Superman, I was definitely like, this guy's not Batman. He's killing people. He's like literally shooting guns and stuff, running people over with cars and whatever. Like, that's not Batman. In this one, I was like, yeah, that's Batman. I was much more accepting of his character in this one. Uh, so yeah, we could talk a little bit about Wonder Woman. I don't know if there's that much to say. She had a really cool intro scene. I really liked that.
She did. So I will say Wonder Woman was so much better in this movie.
Oh, was she?
She was. She was so much more Wonder Woman. I can't recall everything, but in a theatrical release, like there was what how would you phrase it? She was almost more objectified.
Really?
Like, yeah, like there's like that, like the little, like there's it's not in the Snyder cut, but there's like a moment where like what's his name, the Flash, like
Flash accidentally touched her boobs. Yeah,
like falls on top of her. He's like, oh, whoops, and like little things like that. And it just seems like she was just so
what
much
are you
more
doing,
fierce.
dude?
So much more fierce in this movie. Like so much more yeah, that's Wonder Woman. You don't mess with Wonder Woman. Yeah. Like it's been, I loved like the part where was it? Well, first of all, where they toss around Steppenwolf into the portal, and
she comes in,
and then she comes in and chops off his head, which again, like fierce warrior, fierce Amazon, and probably like for my sisters.
I was about to say she got that revenge. He shouldn't have talked all that smack to her earlier.
And so yeah, just she was so much more like, yeah, you don't mess with Wonder Woman in this one.
Yeah,
which I appreciated, because I don't think women in general should be objectified, but especially Wonder Woman should not be objectified.
Yeah, for sure. I liked her in this. I mean, I always enjoy seeing Diana, personal reasons, but yeah, she's great. Her fighting was really cool. I liked her stopping all the bullets in the beginning for the hostages. I'm like, yeah, Wonder Woman. She talk about unnecessary collateral, though. She just throws the bomb at the dude, or no, she blocks it and just explodes him. The one guy at the end.
Yeah,
I was thinking, I was like,
who's going to
police outside probably think the police outside probably think that like something horrible just happened. But Diana, she cool. I like the part where she talks to the little girl. She's like, "You can be whatever you want." I'm like, yeah, that's very.
I did like her little. It was brief, but I did like her little interactions with Alfred.
I like that too. I like that a lot.
See, Diana, I think is just a fantastic character, because she's just so like good, like she legitimately wants to just do the right thing, wants to help,
she's fierce, but she has like a good heart,
Yes, like she is definitely a warrior, but does not mean that she is ruthless. Like she only fights because she feels like she needs to.
Yeah.
Like it's only
she defends other people.
Exactly, but she is very kind-hearted. She just like the way she talked with Cyborg, the way she talked with the little girl, the way she just easily talks with Alfred and trying to pour the tea and whatnot. And
I mean, physically speaking, Batman was the one going around like trying to recruit people. I do feel like it kind of ended up being Diana that ended up recruiting Cyborg, though.
Mm-hmm.
At the well, not the end, but when he finally joins. I did like that interaction between her and Cyborg kind of having a bit of a heart to heart, coming from two very different places, but somehow finding like commonalities. It's just those character moments that I really enjoy in these movies in general, but this movie in particular. Is there anything else in the meat of the story that we need to address? The Asian scientist guy is apparently the Atom, so that's interesting.
All right.
Yeah.
I did not know that. See, I figured he was someone important. I just didn't recognize the name. I don't know DC nearly as much as I know Marvel.
Yeah. I've gotten to know DC a little more just from watching the animated movies, which are great for the most part. Mira has a British accent in this.
Which one was Mira?
Aquaman's lady friend.
Oh, yeah. And also, she was not as redheaded in this one.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she is an Aquaman.
That's funny. I also hear that they don't need to do the air bubble to talk to each other in the actual Aquaman movie.
They don't.
Probably for the best.
Yeah.
It's kind of inconvenient.
Yeah.
I do like the use of powers. Basically, she like tries blood bending. What's his name? Steppenwolf. When he's attacking, I was like, dang. But it makes sense. Like I was like, yeah, do that.
The Martian Manhunter made an appearance, which was not in the theatrical cuts.
I assume so. And it's General whatever his name was. Yeah. From Man of Steel.
Which was almost like
stupid.
Which was almost like a what's it called? The Far From Home moment where like you have the scrolls.
Right. I mean, his appearance was cool. I can't think of any particular reason why he was talking to Lois as Martha Kent, but whatever.
You know, it's funny. I did have the kind of same thoughts where I was like, is she going to be like, oh, thanks for the conversation the other day? And Martha's going to be like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. Also, it's kind of like the Captain Marvel thing where I was like, where were you this whole time, man? You could have helped.
Like
but whatever.
I am interested. Well, I have no idea what's going to happen with the DC universe, but that there are questions, definitely.
For sure.
So yeah, I mean that happened. Aquaman was cool. I mentioned that. I enjoyed Aquaman.
Aquaman was cool. There was a lot of singing. His that what is it? Not tribe, but just the people that he was with seemed to kind of worship him.
Yeah,
which was interesting. They somehow managed to make the most like one of the lamest DC heroes, like the most like cool looking, like Lobo type dudes. Which I appreciate. I like the part with Flash running around. We see it in real time, him like stopping the rubble from hitting the people when they're saving all those guys from Steppenwolf.
Oh yes.
Very cool. Aquaman's appearance when he first comes in through the sewer was pretty cool. Batman's like little crawly thing, mobile. I like that. Him having the pads that block the heat rays or whatever. Makes sense. Good. I like it.
And I think that's all we got for that. So, epilogue.
Yes, there's a couple things here. First off, Martian Manhunter returns, officially introduces himself. All of this was reshot, I believe. The part with Bruce meeting Martian Manhunter, that's very much Ben Affleck 2020, not 2017 or 2016 or whatever. He looks considerably more tired. But yeah, so Martian Manhunter comes in. He's like, your parents would be proud. Makes me think if he knew them, which is very possible. I love Martian Manhunter. He's probably one of my favorite, like, underrated superheroes. So I'm happy he's around. It's kind of whatever. But before that,
Wait, real quick, maybe before we get to the meat of the epilogue.
All right, all
'Cause there
right,
were quite a few. It was almost like a Lord of the Rings 3,
right,
kind of
right.
like boom, 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 like 6 different endings.
Yes,
So before we get to the meat of the epilogue, though, I think what might be like the best part of the epilogue, you have Lex Luthor escapes,
right. Which
and
part of that was in the original?
was it? I don't
It
remember.
was like a post-credit scene,
Okay, so Lex
but
Luthor
not
escapes,
not the most significant part.
which was that Deathstroke? Is that what that
Well,
was?
yes, Deathstroke does appear, but Lex does not tell him in the original. In the original cut, Lex does not say that Bruce Wayne is Batman.
Ah, okay. Okay, so yeah, Deathstroke now knows who Batman is.
Yes, which
Okay,
probably bad news.
ish. Because okay, is there anything else?
Right.
Is there anything
Uh,
else?
uh, Superman kept his black suit, which is cool.
Hughes black suit. They get
Cyborg's
to
moving
find
on with his life. The Flash is kind of reconciling with his own dad, which I like that part. I thought that was a good part.
me too. The Kents get their farm back
The Kents get their farm back. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Bruce.
for
Very
buying
cool.
the bank.
That's a very Bruce Wayne thing. Oh, I love the line. It's in the original, but I like it. What's your superpower? I'm rich. Good part.
Okay, and now the meat of
The
the
meat.
epilogue.
This part was reshot, I believe. Was a new footage from
That
2020.
makes sense because there were scenes that I thought was going to be in there that weren't.
Okay. We see of what we now can confirm pretty much is a vision of the future, which we saw parts of this in Batman v Superman, just not this explicitly.
Uh-huh.
Um, it looks like essentially an injustice sort of universe happens in the future where Superman turns evil. Dark Side found. Oh, we didn't even mention the MacGuffin thing that makes Darkseid want to come to Earth. The anti-life equation, which
Uh-huh.
can apparently take away free will, and also is like the biggest thing, not just in the universe but in the multiverse.
Yeah.
Which apparently, and this is something worth noting, Darkseid, that apocalypse is not necessarily the apocalypse, like is not does not necessarily exist in the same universe as these characters exist in. So it's like another dimension in and of itself.
Yes. And I'll get to that in a sec. Okay, we'll continue.
So we see the post-apocalyptic, essentially totalitarian Superman laid waste to the earth. Probably either from Darkseid manipulating him or him using the anti-life equation on him, or both. And so we see what looks like the survivors of the Justice League have all banded together to survive. Well, to survive, but it's Batman, the Flash, with a suit that looks very much like the suit he was wearing when he, again, in Batman v Superman, was delivering a message in one of Bruce's dreams. We see Cyborg with some updated, with a gun, a minigun, very very roady. We see Mira, we see Deathstroke, and the big thing, big reveal that we already saw in the trailer was
Joker.
Jared Leto's Joker is with them. It looks like as a prisoner mostly, but probably also to survive.
Ish. I mean, prisoner ish.
Yeah, all working together to survive this hellscape of a future that it looks like may or may not be preventable. We don't know. Joker and Batman have an interesting conversation. Perhaps you could unpack some of that, Ulysses.
Yeah, where basically, like, essentially, Joker tells him, like, this is all your fault. We don't know the context, but something happened where Lois ends up dying, and that, for one reason or another, sends Superman over the edge, which, as you mentioned earlier, ends up leading him to work with Darkseid, where Darkseid, does the whole hand on the shoulder, like almost like, "Let me take you in, son."
Yeah.
And leads to a very dark future.
Yes.
And
Again, very. Oh, keep going.
Oh, I was going to say, and something that was interesting, like what you were mentioning earlier with the multiverse, was how Joker was saying, I often wonder how many like different universes or realities, I don't remember exactly how he phrased it, have suffered because you weren't man enough to let yourself die. Something along those lines.
Right. Which is interesting. He also reveals what we pretty much already knew from Batman v Superman again. He straight up killed Robin at some point, which also happened in the comics with the Tim Drake version, who became Red Hood eventually after being revived. It's a whole thing. Again, this whole scenario, very interesting. I know a lot of people are critical of it because they were like, I could have done without that. It was like an extra thing. But, I'm a sucker, and I loved it. And it's so frustrating because this is making me so excited for movies that may never come out. And I really, really now, like, you pick now to make me care about the DCEU. Like, now I really want all the stuff to come out, and it might never, like, see the light of day, man. And it sucks. I like really want to see where this would have gone now.
You never
with this
know.
whole thing.
Snyder Cut could become a cult classic, and maybe let's be honest. I'm not going to say everyone, but a lot of executives, they want, obviously they're in business, so they're going to want to see a profit.
Yes.
There is a very good chance that if they're like, okay, Snyder, do your thing, like continue this story, that people are going to go and watch those movies. A lot of people.
Oh, I guarantee it. Something my friend Brent and I were talking about yesterday when we were talking about this, we were thinking it's also very possible that they could just let him have his own pocket universe on HBO and just let him make movies that HBO releases. That could very much work. It's not like HBO has any shortage of money themselves. So I don't know. I just feel like the DC executives have more or less come out in the last week and said, yeah, that was fun, but we're not doing anything with that anymore. I am not necessarily letting go of hope yet because, again, this movie exists. So I am willing to see where this goes. And I think that with enough pushback, we could very well see where this story takes us. Because I'm very interested in seeing where this goes. It's interesting stuff. Jared Leto's Joker is so for me, but like the characters are still interesting, and the scenarios are still interesting. So, yeah, justice for Ray Fisher. Pretty much all of my thoughts. Oh yeah, Superman comes in at the end and kills everybody. It looks like.
Well, presumably, at least he drops in and everyone's like, "Oh shoot!"
Yep.
Something at least goes down.
Something definitely goes down. Probably people died. Because Superman. But yeah, man. Heck of a movie. Heck of a circumstance. What a time to be alive that we can see stuff like this actually happen on a big old streaming service like HBO. What a time. But yeah, those are pretty much my thoughts. Thank you so much for watching. We are the Bal and Zedegi brothers, and we appreciate your support. Thank you, Jason. I don't know, Will. We're just going to keep saying that at the end of these things. We'll be back. I think we'll be back to talk about Falcon and Winter Soldier soon when the next episode drops. So look forward to that. And bye-bye.
Bye.